We have got a great guest with us right now, Chris Trapasso from, he covers the Buffalo Bills for Buffalo Rumblings as well as a lot of other great stuff. Chris, let's start with John Ross, 4.22. Could this be a potential player for a New York franchise?
I think it could be. I think he's definitely cemented himself in the first round if he wasn't there already. And if he was there already, then he's probably pushed himself into the top 20, maybe top 15. We saw last year Will Fuller from Notre Dame ran in the low 4.3s, had a lot of drop issues, but he still went pick number 21 to the Houston Texans and had a pretty good rookie year. Not a great rookie year, but a pretty good rookie year. For the Bills, I don't really see them trying to add a smaller, speedy wide receiver. They kind of are getting ready to be done with Marquise Goodwin, who is kind of that, just downfield threat. Ross is a much better prospect than Goodwin was, who was like a converted track guy. But for, a team like the Jets that are kind of in rebuilding mode, that would be, a nice spark to their offense. And as far as the Giants, I don't really think that they would be, a team that, after taking Sterling Shepard in the second round, obviously having Odell Beckham, I don't think that they would really be prioritizing wide receiver as early as John Ross is probably going to go.
Chris, any truth to the rumor the ghost of Al Davis has just traded up and is going to pick him number 1 overall?
Oh, yeah, he's in some talks right now with the Browns, but we'll have to see, if by late April if they can strike a deal.
Besides John Ross, who else stood out to you this year's Combine?
There was a lot, man. I think overall what to really take from it is that this is the best draft class, in my opinion, and it kind of seems like it's the consensus, too. This is the best overall draft class since that famous 2014 draft, and that's not just the wide receiver spot. This edge rusher class, Myles Garrett, had a Mario Williams-type combine, running really well, jumping over 40 inches at 272 pounds. He probably even has better film than what Mario Williams had at NC State. Today, Obi Melifonwu from UConn, safety, 6'4", around 220 pounds, has pretty good film, was very productive at UConn, jumped 44 inches. When you see the video, it almost seems like it's fake. He just keeps going up. Had a broad jump that was the second best ever, ran 4.4 flat. He's one of those super athletes. Obviously the NFL is loaded with great athletes, but he kind of stands out. He had a really, really good combine. I think he went from a guy that would have probably gone in the second or third round. He's probably in the conversation in the first round, maybe even in the top 25. Just think overall the defensive backs, the edge rushers, the wide receivers in this class, it's pretty top-heavy, but beyond that, if you miss out on a guy in the second and third round, you're going to be able to get quality starters, which is usually not the case.
Chris Trapasso with us right now, 104.5 The Team, covering the Combine for Buffalo Rumblings. So you say it's a great draft class. Any quarterbacks that are worth looking at?
I think Deshaun Watson is the number one guy that's, certainly not the consensus with everyone. But when you look at just what he did at Clemson, he did have probably a little bit more interceptions in his final season than people wanted. But just from his, accuracy standpoint, decision-making, being able to read the whole field, he gives you a little bit of that running element. I think with the other guys, there are some question marks. Watson is the cleanest, so to speak, of the quarterbacks. I think with Deshaun Kaiser, he had a very good 2015. This past year, obviously, Notre Dame did not have a good season. He struggled mightily in more than a few games. Mitch Trubisky out of North Carolina had a really good year for North Carolina, threw for a lot of yards, didn't have a lot of interceptions, looks the part, around 6'2", 220, big arm, but he only has one season of production. There's a lot of projection with him. Patrick Mahomes is kind of a Tyrod Taylor type of quarterback. He's not as good from the pocket, but he can run around, do a lot of backyard football stuff. But he's coming from a very unique, wide open offense at Texas Tech. So I think this is not the greatest quarterback class, but if there is one who kind of stands out above the rest, in my opinion, it's Deshaun Watson, because he has that top level of competition and he produced for 3 straight years.
You brought up Mitch Trubisky. The artist formerly known as Mitch Trubisky, now Mitchell Trubisky.
Right,
is there
Mitchell, you're right.
Right. Is there something I'm missing in that story? Was it like the mom got upset? Did he just really want to be called Mitchell? What are we not hearing that he did this like name change from Mitch to Mitchell?
I want to say that I saw a tweet, which I didn't know if it was someone being sarcastic, that his dad's name is Cal, and he wanted to like do a little nod with the EL to his dad. I'm not really sure. I don't know if he just thinks that sounds more quarterback-like for the NFL. I have no idea.
Chris Trapasso with us right now, 104.5 The Team. Buffalo Rumblings, one of the great places you can catch his stuff. Chris, as you look through the athletes at the Combine, were there any names that really disappointed?
Yeah, there was a few. I mean, overall, I would say we saw a lot of guys that would be, kind of labeled as winners more so than losers. I think Jabril Peppers, the linebacker safety out of Michigan, he actually competed with the linebackers and the defensive backs, which was pretty impressive. But him being 5'11", 213 pounds, he's certainly today there's guys playing all different positions, but he's kind of a tweener. He's too small to be a linebacker, or you would think. And is he rangy enough in coverage to be a safety? I think he did not have the greatest week, and I think more so than anyone else, Reuben Foster, the linebacker out of Alabama, measured in at 6 foot, 230 pounds, which is a little bit smaller, but his film is superb. He gets kicked out of the Combine for apparently an altercation with a hospital worker when he was going through his medicals. So I think that will kind of scare some teams because he did kind of have some character concerns coming in to the Combine, and I think a lot of teams will think, if this guy's at the biggest job interview of his life and he, can't even behave, is that something that's going to be a problem when he reaches the NFL? He does have a shoulder injury anyway, so I think more so than anything that we saw from guys running slow or not jumping as high as we thought, Reuben Foster, just did not have a good Combine because he wasn't able to perform.
The next step for the Bills is trying to figure out what happens with Tyrod Taylor. Any indications on when we may find out the future of Tyrod Taylor out in Western New York?
I think we're going to find out at the deadline or, very close to the deadline. I wrote about it last week that I think the Bills realize that it doesn't do them any favors if they come out and publicly say either we're going to pick up the option on Tyrod Taylor or we're going to decline it. I think hearing about how many quarterback-needy teams there are and the first 3 picks in the draft, or the teams with the first 3 picks in the draft, the 49ers, the Browns, the Bears, they all need quarterbacks. And we've seen a lot, rumors about Jimmy Garoppolo, rumors about Tony Romo. Today there was a report that Mike Glennon, the Buccaneers backup, might fetch $14 to $15 million per year. So I think the Bills want to keep any trade window open. I don't think that they are really pushing to trade Tyrod Taylor, but I think they realize that Tyrod Taylor's trade value is probably never going to be higher than it is right now. And then, hey, maybe a team like the Browns, maybe a team like the Jets, 49ers, Bears, blows them away with some offer. Then I think that they would consider it. But if they would come out already and kind of told everyone what they were going to do, then that trade window was closed. So I think we're going to find out as close to the deadline as possible with the Bills on Tyrod Taylor.
Chris Trapasso giving us the insight on the Combine and the Buffalo Bills. Check out his stuff at Buffalo Rumblings. Man, we appreciate you making time for us, brother.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.